Okay, so have you all had a chance to check out the minutes?
Yes,
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'd move to approve the minutes.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. We've had a motion to approve and I should read my,
Second it.
okay, I'm going to read my statement after we do the minutes. So we've got planning board members on Zoom, and they are Liz Wheeler, Eric Egan, and that's it. So we will be doing roll call votes today for the minutes. So I'll start. Kate.
Aye.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Eric.
Okay, great. All right, so chapter 61. So basically, I'm going to do a quick overview, and then David is going to talk about this a little bit. And then there's two, I'm going to recuse myself for any discussion on the Laurel Hill parcels that are on the spreadsheet and the Sportsman's Club parcels. And Peter is going to cover for me. And then Peter is going to recuse himself for the, I guess we'll call it the Morris parcel.
Glendale Middle Road.
Glendale Middle Road parcel.
Yep.
And I will cover for him. So, but we'll start with, I'll do a quick overview of the Chapter 61 program. So Chapter 61 is a state program. I think many of us were familiar with the parcel on Interlake and Crossroad that came up for town meeting last year. And basically what Chapter 61 does is it provides people with an option to put their land into one of three programs. One is for timber, one is for agriculture, and then the third is for open space and recreation. So the idea is that in exchange for stewarding these parcels based on their attributes that meet the requirements of the program, the owners of the parcels get a tax break. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. And so after, one of the key challenges with the program is if that someone decides to take their land out of Chapter 61, the right of first refusal goes to the town, and that's a very short time frame within which to act on the town's part. It's 120 days. So we saw this last year with the Interlake and Crossroad parcel where, people were concerned about, what this represented and what would happen. And yet there was a very, short time frame within which to think about the parcel and act. So I certainly heard the concerns of residents in that area, and this program is what it is. But what I thought we could do was have David Cameron, who supports us on the LPOD, evaluate these parcels so that we know a little bit more about them as they come on the market. We at least have a baseline information, in which to think about them. So David has, which I've circulated to the board, he's sent around proposed attributes for assessing these parcels. And I am now going to hand this over to David to talk a little bit about what he can do. Okay, David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. David Cameron, Principal, Fleetwood Environmental Solutions, LLC. I'm an environmental consultant that specializes in natural resources, permitting and planning. I've got about 34 years of experience, and I'm an on-call consultant for the town of Stockbridge, and I serve both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. And so what I proposed, and Kate referenced this one-page kind of basic methodology that I put together, is to do a desktop analysis of all these parcels. I think, if my count is correct, there are 107 different parcels in the spreadsheet that was provided to me by the town. And my proposition is to put together a very simple one-page report for each of these parcels that assesses whether or not they actually possess any of the attributes. I think I have 22 on my draft list that I understand the board has in front of it. 20 of those attributes I would characterize as positive, meaning things like outstanding resource waters and wellhead protection areas and prime forest land and endangered species habitat and wetlands and streams and things like that. And two of the attributes on my list I would actually consider negatives, and those would be underground storage tanks and mass DEP 21E sites. And 21E sites are sites that are in the hazardous waste database for mass DEP permutation, whether they're closed out or they're active or they've been impacted. The soils and ground and or groundwater have been impacted in some way. So my proposal is to do a desktop evaluation of each of these properties, put together a one-page report for each property, put together a summary table for all of them, and compile all that into a report that the board can use if and when any of these parcels come up for first right of review for the town.
Okay. What
Sorry, Kate,
about,
just add on. I would actually assign a score to each one of these properties so that you actually have some kind of relative way to gauge which ones are more valuable than others.
okay, anything else? David?
Since I put that initial list together that I drafted up, I thought that I probably should add Berkshire Scenic Mountain Act
Yes,
parcels to the list.
definitely.
But if the board has any other recommendations, I'm all ears.
Scenic Mountains Act sounds good. What about on site? I know that with the interlaken parcel, there were about, I don't know, 6 or 7 old sort of rusting out vintage cars on the site. Is there a category here that you think that's already here that captures that?
I have a category called, it's kind of a catch-all called structures. What I was thinking was, are there existing houses or barns or other outbuildings on the parcel? But I could add a similar category that I'd call probably something like dumping grounds or encroachments. I've also done a lot of work for the utility companies where they have easements over private property where encroachments are not allowed underneath their transmission lines.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they deal with similar issues like, okay, people have decided to dump like a half a dozen cars underneath the transmission lines, and that impedes the utility company from actually maintaining and repairing the lines. So I guess I could add another category called dumping grounds and encroachments.
Okay, that sounds.
Now there's it may be I may be limited in my ability to identify those types of things just doing a desktop review, but I can turn on the aerial image views and hopefully those types of things, if they're prominent, would show up.
All right, so maybe put a note where you feel you have some limits, you could just indicate that.
Sure.
Okay. Any thoughts here? Jennifer very nicely printed out, found some maps that show the 3 different categories throughout town. So we have that here in front of us. It's very helpful.
The different 61 categories, chapter 61 categories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And other preserved land.
Is there a way to send that to us via email?
I think it's a printout. I don't know, Jennifer, do you have it in hard copy? I mean, electronic? Yeah, she just had that. They're here at the town hall if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, take a look. Thank you. Okay, so how about board members on Zoom, any thoughts?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful way to have it laid out and ready for the next one.
Yeah, it's too bad. Okay, what would you all like to do next? Would you just, is this something you feel positively about that you'd like to go ahead with, or?
I'm all in favor. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it at least gives us more background knowledge of, if we do hear something, if the time frame being so short, or if that gets extended at some point, I don't know, but at least it'll give us some insight to be able to say, yep, this is something that we may be interested in pursuing right out of the gate, or if it's something that, well, we have our eyes on, something else or whatever.
This is how this, I think, well, David, you can speak to this. I think this is how Mass Wildlife, I think this is how they identify properties of interest.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah. Does that
Yeah,
sound?
the Nature Conservancy has their own methodology for doing this, and other land trusts do. I guess, Kate, I probably should have asked when the board meets next, because if the board decides to go ahead and approve this proposal, then I guess my proposed next step would be to put together a sample report for one of these properties
Yeah,
and
sure.
get it to you guys prior to your next board meeting. And
Uh-huh.
you can take a look at the format. And if you decide you want something different, you can let me know.
That sounds very good. And in the meantime, there are some parcels that I will talk to Donna about, because I think there are actually fewer parcels than, I think it was closer to, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'll take a look at that. But there are some parcels that may come off the list just because they're in transit.
Okay. I was going off of what I understood to be the latest list, but if it changes, just let me know.
I will, yeah. Okay, so we have some time on that. All right, so good. So I make a motion that we have David move forward with this and develop a sample template that he can bring to the next meeting so we can get going.
I'll second that.
Okay? All in favor? Aye, Kate?
I call.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Eric.
Okay, we're good to go. All right, so Donna, I never did read that statement. Do I need to read the pursuant to MGL statement? Donna?
Yep, sorry, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
get
that's
the
all
video
right, yeah.
going, but
Yeah,
I
no,
I
you're on with
videoed
juggling two towns, right?
it. No, I'm here.
I know. I never read the pursuant to MGL statement. Should I read that now or?
No, you don't need to. This
Okay.
wasn't a public hearing.
Okay, all right. Okay, so, thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right, folks,
so-
we'll talk to you next time. Bye now.
Yep, sounds good. All right, so next up, we received the changes from Donna to the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. Apparently, what I'm hearing, but Donna can speak to this better than I can, is that the state has been turning down towns across the Commonwealth for their accessory dwelling unit bylaws that, in this case, ours was approved at the town meeting. So we did receive a very dense letter from the municipal law unit, and many thanks to Donna for wading through that and figuring out what we need to do to make this acceptable to the state. So the changes, I emailed those out. Does anyone have any questions about that? Donna is here for this purpose, so you can ask her. Donna, do you want to just provide a quick overview? Is that?
Yeah, sure. So as you know, the municipal law unit didn't disapprove the bylaw in total. It just struck two minor portions of it as being non-compliant with the new ADU statute. And those two portions that they found were non-compliant is what we said we were going to allow ADUs on lots with single-family dwellings on them. And in fact, the statute talks about allowing protected ADUs on lots with principal dwellings in residential districts. So there could be more than one residential unit allowed in a district, and yet you still have to allow the protected ADU. So we struck the one family from the use table. The other minor non-compliant portion of what we approved last year had to do with the lot size, that the statute says that you can't require a minimum lot size requirement. So we had said that the ADUs, the properties that had ADUs on them had to meet all dimensional requirements under the zoning bylaw. Now we've changed it to say all of them except for the minimum lot size. And that should take care of the issues that the municipal law unit brought up in its letter reviewing what we passed.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, yeah. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, all right, so the process would be that if you're all ready, we would vote to submit the proposed amendment that Donna has provided us to the select board. And then the next thing that happens is within 14 days, the select board would refer it back to us for a public hearing. And then we, within 65 days of referral, the planning board will hold a public hearing on the amendment. Before that can happen, the planning board must publish and post notice of the public hearing in the newspaper once in each of 2 successive weeks, the first publication, and so on and so on. So I think, what we need to do now is vote on this to send it to the select board as an amendment. Okay? I make a motion that we vote on the amendment as submitted to submit to the select board for their review. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Okay, any discussion?
None.
No. Okay. Aye, Kate?
Aye, Carl.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Eric.
All right, great. So that's that. And, Donna, I'm going to switch, if you can just stay on for the energy siting thing. I'm going to switch the order again. So in the works, I think the regulations by now may be final. The state is issuing new energy siting regulations. And those are like the ADUs. When those are issued, then we will be looking at those to see what we need to do in the way of bylaws to react to them. Donna, anything to add?
So they're not quite final yet.
Okay.
The public comment period is still open up until February 13th. But I think we can say that they've gone through several rounds of public hearings. They're probably pretty close to done. The main focus of these regulations is to create a process for a consolidated permit for small clean energy infrastructure facilities. And they can be wind, they can be solar, any kind of clean energy. And they have various size limitations on what can qualify for this consolidated local permit. You're not required, if you are an applicant, you're not required to apply for a consolidated local permit. You can go to the individual boards, but I think we can expect that if somebody's going to want to put one of these facilities in town, they're going to apply for a consolidated permit. The town has 12 months from the time of the application to have the proposal reviewed by all of the various boards that would be interested in it, and then issue a permit. If a permit is not issued within those 12 months after the application is filed, then the facility is constructively approved. The other main focus of the regulations is to get a lot of pre-application input from the town. So there are requirements in the regulations that the applicant, before applying, has to meet with municipal officials and get their thoughts on the facility. They have to use various matrices and tools to decide on the best spot to put this facility. And they also have to hold a information session with members of the public, and in particular with the abutters to where the facility is likely to be. All of this, again, is before they can even make file an application with the reviewing board. So that's an overview of what they're expecting to do, and we'll get the final regulations shortly, and then we can figure out what we want to do about it. I think we're probably going to want to adopt a particular zoning bylaw that's going to deal with the siting and identify which board it is that is going to be reviewing for the purposes of the consolidated permit.
Mhm.
And this is for less under 25 megawatts, is that right?
Well, it's under 25 megawatts for small clean energy generation facilities. It is less than 100 megawatt hours for small clean energy storage facilities. And then there's a whole bunch of minutiae that applies to small clean transmission and distribution infrastructure facilities. So there's 3 different kinds of facilities this applies to, and the regulations have various permutations on how, whether they fall under the protection of the consolidated local permit. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It was adorable. That's great. So I know your firm did really helpful slides or write-ups on the short-term rentals when that was first sort of hitting the scene. And if you're doing something similar for this, I'm all ears.
Yep.
Okay.
As soon as the regulations are final, we will be publishing something and we'll send it to you.
That's great. Thank you, Donna.
Sure.
Okay, so any questions while Donna's here? Anybody have a question?
I don't think any questions. I think there's a lot going on there, so we really have
There's a lot.
to
Yeah.
you
it's
know,
gonna be, yeah, we
pay
got,
attention and really dig
Yeah.
into it.
yeah, we got a lot. Yeah. Liz, Eric, anything?
No, I'm looking forward to the final copy to really see what we've got going here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if there's nothing else, Donna, thank you very much.
All right. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Night. Yeah. All right. And then the only other thing I have on the agenda is, and I forget, I just have to pull up my calendar to get the dates. We have heard from, speaking of Chapter 61s, we did hear from Jim Scalise, who's the fellow who purchased the property on Interlaking Crossroad, and he is ready to submit his plan. He'll be submitting it under the subdivision regulations. And the only person on our board who has been through subdivision is Gary. And I did urge Jim, I ran into him at a Conservation Commission meeting, and I did urge him to consider working with a cluster bylaw, which I think you had something to do with, Carl. And he is. So he is choosing to use the cluster bylaw. So we will see what we get. And the date that he is going to submit, so he's submitting under the subdivision regulations under the preliminary review. And in that case, that gives us, from the date that he submits, the planning board has 45 days within which to make a recommendation, which is non-binding. Okay, and this is all spelled out in the subdivision regulations, which you all have in your book.
Yep.
Okay, so he's been in touch, and he is going to submit his plans officially on February 25th, and with the understanding that I will be putting this on the planning board agenda for March 3rd. We don't, 45 days will go by quickly.
Yeah. Well,
So he submits, and then I want to get us going on this. Okay? So that's really all I have. That's, I just wanted to remind everyone that that's coming up because we are all new to subdivision. So except for Gary. Okay?
So when he submits that, that'll be like drawings, that'll be his potential moving forward plan.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it's, it's just a preliminary review. To me, it's good to, to use this approach because it gives us an opportunity to have a conversation with the developer. So, all right.
It sounds like it would be his concept of what he has in mind. So I don't know how many drawings he would have available.
Well, I would think at least a sketch of some sort to give us an idea.
Well, let's take a look at what
I
the regulations
think
say.
I read through.
Keep going.
I interpreted that it would include a basic sketch. It does not, not detail, but it would give an idea of how the property would be utilized.
Right. So right here, if you look at, for me, it's on page 5 of the subdivision regs, under 4.10 preliminary plan. It's under 4.102 contents. The preliminary plan shall be drawn at a suitable scale and 7 copies shall be filed at the office of the town clerk for distribution to the planning board, the Board of Health, and the Conservation Commission. The planning board may require submission of additional copies at its discretion. Said plan shall be identified as a preliminary plan and shall show the proposed names of streets or ways as well as all information described under the definition of the preliminary plan so as to form a clear basis for discussion of its problems and for preparation of the definitive plan. During discussion of the preliminary plan and the financial arrangements, this doesn't quite read well, but will be developed. So, and then take a look at the cluster bylaw, which is in our, I actually think that's in our general bylaws.
I think it was
It's in
in that one
zoning?
too. But
624 or something like that.
Oh, it's, yeah, you got it. 6.24, page 72 for me. Oh, you should know this from memory. You wrote it.
Put it away.
All right, so I'll just read the intent. The intent of this section is to permit variation in conjunction with a proposed subdivision plot and lot size in suitable areas in order to encourage flexibility of design and enable land to be developed in such a manner as to promote its most appropriate use. It is further the intent of this section to promote energy conservation, harmonize architectural design, better use of existing topography and natural features, conservation of open spaces, recreational development, solar access and design, and to provide for economies inherent with clustered development. So there's wiggle room there. I mean, our subdivision regulations are pretty outdated. That's something we might look at if the state ever stops throwing work at us. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So, there's anything else on this?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, we can't really yet, we don't have anything yet, and I just wanted to upcoming business alert everyone. So, with that, I think we're ready to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
I'd move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye, Kate?
I call.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Eric.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good night.